Beautiful choir. Thank you. And good morning, Arapahoe. That was fun. What an amazing day. And it is just beginning. The backpacks have been blessed, and we do have some more tags. If you did not bring your backpack or your briefcase with you today, you can pick one up. I'll have them outside the sanctuary after worship. You're welcome to grab one. And remember that you got this, that God is with you. I forgot my backpack today, and so I'll be taking one along with me. But the backpacks have been blessed. The teachers and staff and students and parents have been prayed for, and they will continue to be prayed for as well. And outside, the school supply aisles look like the grocery store when it drops below 32. It is back to school time. And here at church this summer, we've been journeying through a series called Today I Learned. We've shared a little bit of those discoveries that kind of flipped on the light switches in our life along the way. But that Today I Learned idea wasn't just a summer series. It's really the whole story. It turns out that following Jesus means that class is always in session. We're lifelong learners, enrolled in the school of love with Jesus as our teacher. As all the grandparents in the room know, no one ever hands you a diploma and tells you you've graduated from love. There's always more to give. And that is good news. It's easy for me to say being a lifelong learner may be my life's ambition. And I trace a lot of it to my very first teacher, Miss Huddleston. When I was a kid, Miss Huddleston was my kindergarten teacher, and her little portable classroom outside our North Georgia elementary school was a magical world of exploration and wonder every day. Sometimes she would come in costume for special units. She'd lived in Japan, and so she would come to class in a kimono and let us try different foods, which was amazing for us because this was a little rural Georgia school, and few of us had left the country. Few of us had left the county, actually, in our life. And so she made kindergarten amazing, and she thought every kid in there was amazing and saw what they brought. She thought I was amazing because I knew every word to the Star-Spangled Banner on the first day of kindergarten. Little did she know that was because by age 5, I had been to a lot of Atlanta baseball games. And I thought the last line of the Star-Spangled Banner was home of the Braves, too. Just like our kids learned to yell stars during the Star-Spangled Banner as well. Miss Huddleston helped me love learning so deeply that it even survived middle school. But more than that, she helped me love this world. She opened my eyes and my heart, just like a good teacher does. Because great teachers aren't dispensers of information. They don't teach in order to test. They teach so we can learn and keep learning. They teach from the heart, raising questions, presenting material in surprising ways, and opening their lives and sometimes their tables, sometimes wearing kimonos and letting you try nori seaweed in Canton, Georgia. I heard it said of a master teacher, give us instructions and sets us free. That's what it means to teach, to instruct, and to set us free to keep learning. And Jesus was that kind of teacher. But before he was a teacher, and this might surprise us, Jesus was a student, too. So check this out. In the gospel stories of Jesus' life, they give us exactly one story from Jesus' childhood. After the whole Christmas baby thing, there's one story of Jesus' childhood between the manger and the ministry. And it's this one that we find in Luke chapter 2. Jesus is 12 years old, and the family of Jesus has traveled to Jerusalem for the Passover. It's a whole caravan of relatives and neighbors. It's like the Home Alone family heading to the airport. So maybe you can see where this is going. The festival ends and everybody heads home, and Mary and Joseph have their Home Alone moment. Jesus, right? And they spend 3 days looking for him in Jerusalem. And so just pause and receive the good news for every parent in this room. Mary and Joseph lost track of Jesus the Christ for 3 days. So whatever happened in the Target parking lot this week, you're doing fine, right? So they finally find Jesus in the temple, and he's there. He's not performing wonders. He's not correcting the professors. Luke said he's doing this. It says they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking questions. Sitting, listening, asking questions. Imagine Jesus raising his hand, beginning his journey not by lecturing, but by listening. So his mother shows up, and she's understandably frazzled. And she asks the question that every parent asks at some point, "Good heavens, child, what on earth?" And Jesus answers with a question of his own, because he's 12, and of course he answers with a question. He says, "Didn't you know that I must be in my Father's house?" There's this one word answer in that question. Not, "I wanted to stay," but "I must be here." And about this work, there was something in him that knew he was called to learn and to grow. He was drawn to the questions, to the teachers, to the wonder of it all. And then Luke closes the story by summing up the whole origin story of Jesus. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor. He grew. He increased in wisdom by listening and learning and asking questions. Jesus learned. The one we call teacher was enrolled as a student first. So if you've ever felt like your faith had questions, if it was unfinished, just look at the 12-year-old in the temple, growing, learning. That isn't the remedial track. It's the family resemblance. And as children of God, it's what we're called to do. And of course, the student grew up. And so the title that people used for Jesus in his life more than any other was this: Rabbi, which in Hebrew means teacher. Teacher. In Jesus' day, that term rabbi was just coming into use for someone whose teaching carried spiritual weight, someone whose teaching was worth listening to. And the great Rabbi Jesus taught like great master teachers, like Miss Huddleston taught. Stories that made farmers and fishermen and philosophers lean in and listen. Every table that would have him, even some that wondered whether he was supposed to be there, he kept asking questions, kept teaching and telling stories. He presented material in surprising ways. He taught things that opened people's minds, like the last are first. The outsider often is the hero of the story, and God's love is wider than we can imagine. And that 12-year-old question asker never stopped asking questions. Jesus asked far more questions than he answered. It's not close. Questions like, what are you looking for? What is written in the law? How do you read it? Do you want to be well? Who do you say I am? These are the questions where the answers aren't in the back of the book. They're deep in us. They're the kinds of questions that open a student up instead of weeding them out. Jesus didn't teach in order to test. He taught so that we would always be learning. Along the way in my life, sometimes it seemed like faith was taught like an entrance exam, like a true-false test, right? You memorize the right answers, you bubble in the right beliefs, and you pray that your score is high enough when the report card comes home. If that was your classroom of faith, just know that's not how the rabbi taught. Jesus taught to open minds and hearts and lives, to help us be learners, not just question and answer memorizers, to give us instructions and set us free to love. See, in this rabbi's school, the enrollment invitation was only ever 2 words: follow me. Follow me. No school application, no essay we had to write to get in. Follow, right there in the midst of your ordinary life. Follow me. But what does following mean? Jesus explains it like this. He says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Take my yoke, which was a metaphor from farm equipment back in those days, which is a very strange school motto in the rabbi's school. But in the ancient world, the rabbi's yoke was shorthand for their teaching, their way of moving through the world. And so to take a rabbi's yoke was to enroll in their school, to learn their way, and to let it become your way also. And so hear what Jesus is saying. He's saying, come and learn from me. Enroll in the school of love. Put it on for yourself and help love pull. And notice, he says that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And the word there doesn't mean that it will be easy peasy, right? We'll breeze through it all. We all know that it is not. But instead, that word that we translate often easy means my yoke is well-fitting. It fits you well. And that changes everything, because a well-fitted yoke isn't something that a farmer grabs off a shelf like a pre-packaged curriculum. It's handcrafted for you by the kind and careful farmer who carves and shapes it for your particular shoulders so that you can pull real weight without wounding. It's a yoke that fits you. And so what that means is that the way of Jesus was never meant to sand you down into a copy of someone else's vision of Christianity. It's fitted for your actual shoulders, for your story, your wiring, built for you so that you can flourish as you are in all you are, so that you can carry real love through this world, so that you can love as only you can. And not every yoke is like that. The world hands us over and over again yokes that are carved for someone that we're not. Yokes that can grind you down with expectations that the world imposes from the outside. But love breaks those yokes. Learning from Jesus isn't about grinding us into conformity. It's more like Miss Huddleston's portable of possibilities. It's those instructions that meet you where you are, that begin to bring healing to the places in you that need healing, to give you instructions, to open your heart, and to set you free into your world, to walk the way of Jesus' love. And that makes us disciples. The word disciple, as I've said before, means student. And the simplicity of that idea is this. And the lifelong part of it is this, is that disciple is what we are supposed to be on this journey always. There's no next hierarchical level that we can move up to. Even me, your pastor, before anything else that I am in this room or in this role, I must first and always be a disciple. There are no upperclassmen in the school of love. And so the question is never, have you mastered it? The question is only ever, are you still learning? And here's why that's good news and not an endless treadmill. Because life never stops handing you new material, right? But you also never stop being in the hands of a good teacher. The first half we know. Life keeps enrolling you in courses you didn't sign up for. All right, those 8 o'clock on the Monday morning classes, new decades, new hurts, new experiences, a world that won't slow down for a moment. But the second half is the gospel good news of all of it. In every other school, the point is to graduate away from your teachers. But in the school of love, the teacher walks with you always. The walking with is the way of life. And it means this, that you are never without a teacher if you are willing to learn. When there's new material, there's the same rabbi walking with you every single morning. And that doesn't mean that you'll never be good enough to graduate. It means that graduation's not the point. In this school, there's only one way to fail, and that's to believe that you've finished learning. The folks that gave Jesus the hardest time weren't the slow students like me. They were the folks who thought that they'd graduated already. But the ones who are willing to learn, to follow, to try, love, they were called disciples. And we Methodists wrote this into our DNA for all of us. When pastors are ordained, when we finally graduate and have our new beginning, we get this question that goes all the way back to John Wesley, the founder of Methodist movement. The question is, are you going on to perfection? Which is a very John Wesley way of asking, are you still learning and growing? Wesley was convinced that grace invites us to keep growing our whole lives through. That love in us can always increase. And our whole tradition asks us to raise our hand in every ordination and say, I haven't arrived. I'm not finished. I'm still learning. And that's how we begin. And I hope that that's how I begin every morning as a disciple. I'm still learning from you along the way. Every student needs teachers, and this church is full of them. There's a lot of Miss Huddlestons at Arapahoe. We've got some incredible Sunday school teachers in our children's ministry who leave every Sunday with a full heart and glitter in their hair from the adventures in their classrooms. Just want to celebrate this week Greg and Johanna Riddle, who spent their week, this back-to-school week, refreshing their classroom into a place where learning and love is the classroom language. There's Johanna there, and I think we've got some pictures of her classroom and what she's been preparing for the kids. All of our teachers and volunteers are amazing in the way that they give. Our youth counselors who rode through literal floodwaters with our kids, the nursery volunteers who teach our littlest ones their very first theology lesson, that when you cry, you're held. That's the whole good news of God in board book form there. The VBS crew, the choir who leads us and teaches us, the mentors, the folks who teach simply by showing up for each other week after week. None of them teach in order to test. All of them teach to help us open our minds and our hearts and to help us all keep being students of Christ's love. And so thank you. If you've volunteered or helped or served, you are doing holy, holy work. And so thank you for that. We'd also love to have your help this year as well, too. There's lots of ways to plug in. There's teachers, there are assistant teachers, baby rockers, folks who work on blessing bags, lots of ways to plug into our children and youth ministries. You can go to arapahoeumc.org/kidsvolunteer. If you're interested, it's got information about some of the ways that you can plug in, and we would love to have you. In fact, our kids need you to continue to learn and grow and be disciples as well. So as we land today, I want to offer you some good news. And first, good news is that there's no homework on the first week of school. So you're good to go this week. But there is one question for you to ask this week. It's back to school week, and so all across Richardson, Plano area, families resume the oldest liturgy in family life, asking their kids after school, what did you learn today? In the minivan over chicken nuggets, usually it comes back with, I don't remember, right? You get that? Or nothing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not true. But here's my invitation for all of us this week. Whenever you sit down at your table, wherever you find yourself, ask that question in your heart. Maybe it's at the carpool, or you can say it to your journal, or to a friend that you sit with, or to your pets, or to your family that you're gathered around, or say it in your heart. Because the sentence isn't just for the kids in school, it's the whole posture of Jesus's class. What did you learn today? Keeping our minds open, keeping our hearts still enrolled, still knowing that God shows up every morning with new things for us to learn. And if you get to the end of the day and you can't finish with an answer to that sentence, it's okay. It's not failure. That just means that you may have some makeup work to do tomorrow. Keep following. That's the whole class. Follow me. One step in front of the other. And there's a blessing in our lives when we do that. There's an old blessing from the rabbi's students in the ancient Jewish tradition. The rabbis who would walk closely behind their teacher and follow in a literal way, close enough to hear every word. And there was a blessing for those students that went like this: may you be covered in the dust of your rabbi's feet. May you be covered in the dust of your rabbi's feet. May you follow so closely that you're covered in the dust of the one who walks before us. And so that's my blessing for all of us students here at Arapahoe, as we follow wherever our rabbi leads us. As we follow Jesus into our classrooms and our cubicles, into our kitchens and our carpools, may we be covered in the dust of our rabbi's feet. When we follow him into the hard conversations, the apology we've been working out, the hospital room, or the season that we didn't choose, covered in the dust of our rabbi's feet. And when we follow Jesus into the places that he leads us, whether it be the ICE field office or city council conversations, it's the apartment where a refugee family is learning the bus routes, into the conversation with your neighbor at the mailbox, wherever love leads you, may you be covered head to toe in the dust of our rabbi's feet. The invitation is offered, follow me, and the yoke fits. The teacher is good. The backpacks are blessed, and class is in session. So friends, may we be disciples. May we be learners. May we follow. And along the way, may we be covered in the dust of our rabbi's feet. Amen. Amen. Let's pray together. Art, would you pray for us this morning? Wonderful. Thank you.